All right, well, welcome back to Exhaust Sports Auto. My name is Kevin, and this is actually a part 2 video to the 6-month ownership of this 440i BMW that I have here. It technically would be 7 months, but actually I have not had this vehicle for the past 4 weeks now. So basically it's still a 6-month review because I've been having press cars back to back. So I haven't even been able to drive this vehicle yet. But that's nor here nor there, actually. Well, it kind of is, but like we'll get to that later. So the main thing I want to address from that 6-month review that I posted about a month ago was the issue I actually had with this vehicle. Yes, I actually had an issue with this car. It was super minor, really stupid, but here's a solution to it. So the issue was when I turned this vehicle like really quickly, the faster I accelerated while turning, the more I could hear this constant ticking sound that came from this vehicle. So it didn't matter like left or right, either way, when I turned this vehicle, it would make like this constant ticking noise. So in order to get rid of the car, obviously this vehicle is a lease, so I just took it right to BMW dealership, and they had it looked at, and they definitely detected that noise was there, and they actually fixed it for me. At first they were like, oh, it's gonna take like a week or whatever, but they actually got me in like, they actually fixed it the very next day actually. So what was the solution to that constant ticking sound? It was just a stupid little like friction plate, or like essentially a disc that sits behind the wheel bearing. That's all it was essentially. So they replaced those two discs basically, and they also just kind of cleaned up like the hub area and all that stuff. That's all they did, and the ticking sound is now completely gone. So that was the only issue I had with this vehicle in the 6 months that I've owned this vehicle. It now has about 6,000 miles on it. So that was pretty much everything. That was the main thing I wanted to address with this video. You know, mainly I bring this up because I found like this forum talking about this exact same issue, and you know, except he had like a 3 Series from like 2013 or something like that. At the time, that was like a new car for him, and like BMW could not pinpoint this issue, and he had this whole like suspension assembly, like replace like shock struts, everything. And he even got like some Dynin, like, you know, springs put on his vehicle, and apparently like that fixed it. Just insane. Like he was without his car for like 6-7 months, and it was pretty ridiculous. And really all the issue was a couple of friction plates. That's all it was, sitting behind the wheel bearing. So there you go. But I guess since I'm making this video about this BMW, I know many of you don't care about this vehicle. The few people who do own like these 4 Series cars or 3 Series cars, this is kind of important, I guess, for you guys to know. But the other thing I kind of noticed with this car, you know, it does have about 6,000 miles on it now. I've noticed a little bit of, you know, crunchiness with this vehicle. What do I mean by that? You know, this is a 440i, this particular model, so, and it's the Gran Coupe, so basically it's similar to the 3 Series, except this vehicle like sits a little bit lower. It's a little bit more of a low slung, like coupe-like vehicle, and it definitely rides harsher than a 3 Series. So I was actually in a 328i and in a 320i actually. 2016 models with about 30 to 35,000 miles respectively, and they ride way better than this vehicle. Granted, they did have 17-inch wheels on those vehicles, but this one, it tends to kind of like crash over the bumps a little bit more. I don't mind it. It's not like a terrible ride, but like it's definitely a very firm ride, I would say. Not like a typical luxury car. Like you kind of feel a little bit more of the bumps, and it's starting to, you know, creak a little bit here and there. You know, not the worst thing in the world, but there's still like that general sense of solidity to the cabin that has not gone away. I do believe that these are pretty like solid, like, you know, for the most part, like well-built vehicles. But like this 4 Series, like the BMW cars that have like really poor ride quality, like the M cars, like apparently this vehicle, they tend to not age as well. Like I was in a 7 Series, a 2014 7 Series with like 100K miles on it, and that thing rode amazingly, and guess what? The interior still feels great till this day. So a good riding car can definitely age pretty well, or like aid in that, is essentially. Now this vehicle is not unbearable. Like, you know, I did like a 1 day like 500-mile like road trip in this car, and it didn't like beat me up, but you know, it's just something to note about this car essentially. But for more details, definitely check out that first 6-month ownership video I did, because I definitely made some good comparisons with the 3 Series and all that. So that could be of more value too. But yeah, dude, as a whole, I love this car, man. I actually could not wait for that Volvo to get out. Like that was the last press car I had, the XC40 review, if you guys saw that. That was it. I should be getting the LS 500H. That should be the next press car that I get. Apparently it got rear-ended or something. There's like some rear bumper damage done to that vehicle, so it's that Gerber collision getting repaired. You know, we'll see. if I do get it next week. Hopefully I do, because many of you have been waiting on that particular vehicle. But yeah, I mean, I've been having these press cars, and I really miss driving this car. I love driving this car. It is very addicting, actually. This has been one of the most rewarding driving cars I've ever driven, aside from my, Genesis G80, actually, which is huge praise coming from me, as many of you probably know. This car, it just manages to do everything that I would practically want a good car to do out on the street. The handling of this thing is really great. It's the perfect, handling and just power, it balances everything out so well. It is just such a confidence inspiring vehicle. It just does whatever you tell it to do, essentially. Nothing feels out of the ordinary. Just everything feels natural. I love the ergonomics of this cabin. I've been able to appreciate that more and more. Obviously, I got super lucky with the spec, with the white, with the red seats and all that stuff. So I was really lucky with that. Everything's super easy to access. I mean, all the climate control stuff is completely separated from the screen, which I love. Even the screen itself, it actually works pretty good. A couple of quirks with it. I kind of talked about this with the, the first 6-month review that I did. But as a whole, dude, this has been a very rewarding ownership experience. I really do appreciate this car. The 3 Series as well. Technically, the 3 Series to me is actually a better vehicle because it's a lot more of a solid rear end instead of this hatchback, essentially. Good thing there's no panoramic sunroof. I was actually talking to WB Wayne about sunroofs in cars, and it just has a regular one in this, but I would rather them not put a sunroof in a hatchback vehicle at all, just to give it a little bit more rigidity to the chassis as a whole. But the moment I stepped into this vehicle and I drove for the first time, I knew this was a great car. This is a vehicle that, if proven well, and it has, I think, for the most part, you can actually keep this car for 10 plus years and be really happy just driving this car every day. It never has gotten old to me. I do believe that BMW reliability has actually gone up over the years. I was actually talking to a guy, he had his 328i, it was a 2016 328i, but he's got 120,000 miles on his 328, and he's only just started to replace stuff now, because obviously it's an older vehicle with a lot more miles now, so he's starting to replace some stuff now, so he's thinking about getting rid of that. But as a whole, these vehicles have proven themselves to be extremely reliable, I guess. Like he said, he's never had a single issue with his car, so that's a great thing. Definitely got some good balls, that's for sure. Very effortless. But yeah, I also heard a story of another guy. He has 180k miles on a relatively new BMW, and he still loves it. He said still running like a champ. So apparently these BMWs, man, they've come a long way since what they were doing before. So something to keep in mind, something to appreciate, I guess, with these vehicles. Now, would I ever want to get rid of this car? Not really. Like I said, I do really enjoy driving it, but I guess if the right opportunity came, if it a car that's equally as cool as this came about, again, like I mentioned, I would be content a regular 3 Series. I love the looks of this vehicle. I mentioned that before already, but something like a Challenger, 6.4 with the manual. If I can get that for $350 a month, and they would pay this vehicle off, maybe I would probably consider that. I'd be curious to maybe own a Jag, I guess. I would love to own a Alfa Romeo, the Quadrifoglio or whatever. I would love to own that, but that's a stupid expensive car. Really, I was actually going to get, many of you have been calling me a yuppie for all the vehicles I've owned in the past, but dude, I love luxury cars, and I was actually really going to get an LS 500, because they lease out for about $700 something, and that is nothing for a full-size luxury sedan. That is absolutely nothing, because the equivalent S-Classes and the 7 Series and all that stuff, that would be well over $1,000. Easy, no questions asked. But 700, still a little too high for me, and this BMW, though, this definitely suits my, I guess my age, I suppose. Nobody's calling me a yuppie in this thing. So I definitely appreciate the swagger of this vehicle. Definitely a very nice look to it. Again, though, let me know down in the comment section if you've owned a vehicle like this, like the 3 Series, like the F30, or this 4 Series. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen both the videos, the 6-month review and this, after watching this, of course. Let me know. And with that kind of concludes my official 6-month review of this vehicle. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care, and goodbye.